Corinthian wore a bit of a dust-up, this between Sparta and the Peloponnesian League on one side, and a right old coalition of Persia, Thebes, Corinth, Argos, and Athens on the other, all for a bit of a barney over who was top dog in Greece. It all kicked off after a bit of a family squabble in Persia, you see. Back in 401 BC, these two brothers, Cyrus and Artaxerxes, were having a proper go at each other for the Persian throne. The younger brother, Cyrus, thought he'd be a clever clogs and sought help from Sparta, who rather obligingly gave him permission to recruit a mercenary army in Greece. 13,000 Greeks, a fair few lads, set off for Persia. In 401 BC, at the Battle of Canaxa near Babylon, Cyrus' lot got a right thrashing, and he himself, well, he popped his clogs. However, the Greek mercenary troops, bless them, managed to see off all attacks by Artaxerxes' forces and retreated from the battlefield in good order, heads held high sort of thing. The 10,000 surviving Greeks, a resilient bunch, chose Xenophon, a historian and philosopher and a mate of that clever Socrates, as their leader. And so began the famous march of the 10,000 from Media to the Black Sea coast, later written down by Xenophon in his Anabasis, a jolly good read, apparently. The Greeks, showing a fair bit of grit, managed to repel all attacks by local tribes and reached Colchis, where they were forced to endure a tough battle with the Colchians, a proper scrap. Throughout the march, Xenophon's warriors moved in a square formation, a hollow square, mind you, with the baggage trains tucked safely in the middle. But when they got to the mountains of Colchis, their phalanx couldn't quite keep its shape, so Xenophon, a resourceful chap, divided his entire army into companies lochoi of 12 rows of 8 men each, creating gaps between them. He explained his new battle order thus: "I reckon we should advance in many columns, each in a lochos, leaving a fair bit of space between them, so our last lochoi go beyond the wings of the enemy army. Each lochos will move where the road's a bit more convenient. It'll be tricky for the enemy to get through the gaps, as they'll find themselves stuck between our spears. And it won't be a walk in the park for the enemy to knock out the lochoi advancing in a column." 80 lochoi of hoplites were formed, a decent number. Peltasts and archers formed 3 units of 600 men each in the center and on the flanks, covering their mates. The flanking lochoi advanced first, leading the charge. The Colchians tried to outflank them and mucked up the formation of their own center in the process, a bit of a blunder. Then the central lochoi, seizing the opportunity, broke through the gaps in the enemy troops and occupied the top of the mountain, a clever bit of work. The Colchians, seeing they were beat, scarpered, and Xenophon's army reached Trapezus and sailed home. Job done. Artaxerxes, having finally sorted out his brotherly bother and secured his throne, then started to seize the Greek cities of Asia Minor that had sided with Cyrus and Sparta. A bit of payback, that. As a result, in 399 BC, the Spartans, not best pleased, declared war on the Persians. Persia, ever the cunning sort, managed to get several Greek states who were a bit miffed with Sparta's being top dog to join their side. And seeing as the main theater of this military carry-on became the Corinthian Isthmus, the whole shebang got called the Corinthian War. With Persian dosh, Athens, showing a bit of resilience, was able to rebuild the long walls and cobble together a fleet that, in cahoots with the Persian navy, gave the Spartan fleet a proper drubbing, turned the tables on them. However, on land, those Spartan hoplites, they still had the upper hand, a tough bunch. To try and even the odds, the Athenian strategist Iphicrates had the bright idea of lengthening the spears of his hoplites and lightening their armor. So now, the the spears of the fourth rank were right up at the front, giving them a bit more reach. In a few land-based scraps, the Spartans did suffer a few defeats at the hands of the Athenians, a bit of a surprise. However, Persia, getting a bit twitchy about Athens getting too strong for their liking, forced its allies to agree to the compromise peace of Antalcidas in 387 BC, a bit of a fudge, really. This treaty handed over the cities of Asia Minor to Persia and declared that all Greek states were to be autonomous, each to their own. As a result, Sparta managed to hang on to its position as the most powerful Greek state, still calling the shots, sort of thing. And the Spartans kept their grip on their Peloponnesian mates, keeping them in line.